Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. After appearing in a previous Brave Noise interview, our knowledge about Wilderness has risen and we fell in love. Now James and Helen are back to talk about Wilderness's newly designed Rise Fall launch. I'm Joanne and this is Tori.
Hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us. It is wonderful to have James and Helen back on from Wilderness Brewery. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for coming back on.
Back.
Very pleased that we can talk to you about, well, we enjoy talking to you about Brave Noise, but to get to talk to you about the brewery and how things have changed since the last time we talked to you, we're very excited about that. If you'd like to just introduce yourselves, let everybody know who you are, what Wilderness is all about, in case they rudely didn't listen to the other podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to go first.
Well,
You're in charge.
You will go first, James.
So we're Wilderness and we are a very small brewery from mid Wales. It's sort of just the two of us, Helen and I, and we make farmhousey beers, generally mixed fermentation beers, fairly sort of classic styles, a lot of which are barrel aged, slightly soured, wild yeast bacteria, funky, and then I'm going to say fun, which is going to make me sound awful, but yeah,
all the good stuff.
I do sort of the brewing-y side of things, and Helen,
that's 100% what you do.
And yeah, Helen sort of runs the rest of the show. Sort
of is the correct word. I sort of faff about, you know. It's great.
I think there's a lot of faffing from both of us.
To be fair, who in life doesn't get stuck with a bit of faffing every now and then? Like, I feel like that's when I do the same thing with like my job. Like, I sort of do this sort of sometimes. I try.
Yeah. I think that's the thing though with craft beer, is that not at any point are you ever really like, this is my, like, I regularly am like, I cannot believe this is much. It doesn't feel like a real job. It almost feels stupid. So I think like, do you know what I mean? You're always just like, this is crazy. I do I often tend to downplay, I guess, what I do, because I'm like, it's kind of weird and like, it's not very serious, I guess. Like, yeah, I don't know. Obviously it is serious, but it isn't serious, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
I think it seems the smaller the operation as well, I think the more hats you have to wear as well. So it's kind of like you probably might be doing one thing one week and it's like, oh, who's going to do this? I guess I'll pick this up. And then probably another week you might be doing something different that you didn't expect to do, or go into a event that you didn't necessarily expect you were going to go to. And so it's got in some ways it has to be like just the things that come up along the way as well have to be part of what makes that enjoyable as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really funny, like, because there's just two of us, like we are always doing all of the bits of running a business, and like there's lots to it, and lots of it is quite, you feel out of your depth on. Apart from that, we're super professional and really competent and stuff.
Yeah, as you can see, we're very confident.
Well, if it makes you feel better, like since the last time we've talked, I've transitioned into working in the beer industry, and I myself am often walking around being like, oh, what am I doing today? Today I'm walking around with a bag of socks and giving them out to people, and today I climbed over to some pallets and pulled out some samples, and then had to find a way to get those delivered to someone when there's postal strike and TNT won't pick it up. You know, you're like, okay, what am I going to do today? I'm going to problem solve. That's what I'm going to do. We're going to make it work.
Definitely. I think that's quite nice, like, because I used to work in theatre, and like that when I worked in small scale theatre, like that was the whole thing. Everyone is literally just, again, my like continual career has been just weird, just doing weird things.
Yeah, same.
Like, why am I making 100 fake cigarettes for a show?
Right.
It's just like, it's mad. But yeah.
Why am I washing costumes in a hotel sink? Oh, because
Yeah,
the water isn't switched on at the place where the theatre is yet. That's why. Problem solving.
It's the things you never woke up thinking you were going to need to do that day, and you're like, I guess this is what I'm doing today.
Yeah, this is what I'm doing today, and it's fine. We get it. It's great fun. That's what we tell ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. The nice thing is, it's an industry full of people who aren't really in it for the big money professionalism side of things, so it's all right. It's all good.
Yeah, we're definitely in it for the fun.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh every time, like, you just see someone make a comment somewhere, like just on the side about like, oh, the people that are in beer for all the money and this and that, and you'll just be like, oh yes, because that person is driving around in their Lamborghini all the time from all the, you have to you go into it for a love of like the beer and the industry, and it's definitely like, especially now, just so you definitely go into it because you love it and it's something that you care about more so than anything else there. So yeah.
I feel like everyone's just hoping for the best at the moment. It's a really difficult time, so but we're very lucky to be able to fart around as we do. So
here's to farting around for many years,
many more years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which brings us to what we're farting around today on. So you guys have launched the Rise Full. Do you want to give quite a high level of what that means?
Yeah, go well. So this is something. So Helen's been working for us for about a year now, and I'd say this is sort of the culmination of what we've been working on for certainly at least the last few months, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it sort of came about probably about 6 months ago, just from trying to work out. Like, I was cataloguing all of the previous wilderness beers, just also so I could really understand what we'd done previously, and I guess kind of, I don't know, maybe start to work out where we could start heading. It's kind of like come about from there, really, I suppose. Yeah,
so our previous approach had been whatever James fancies making at any particular time, and that was our range of beers.
It's a great strategy.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I thought so. Turns out, someone else comes on board and says, maybe we should have some sort of plan, and not.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So we, the idea of having a core range of beers perhaps wasn't quite for us, because that would have been quite a big step, right? From all new all the time to suddenly we're a normal brewery with like real plans and that sort of thing. like that would have been a lot. So Helen very kindly sort of introduced some sort of compromise idea, which is like a set of beers that sort of sum up the types of beers we like to make and the types of beers we like to offer to people, but also give us a bit of room to maneuver and embrace the seasonality of ingredients and the sort of things we like to use, and then present those as something that we can keep coming back to, always have these types of beer available, but not necessarily have to be bound by, right, this is the recipe.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I really think one of the things that I wanted to do was, I guess, showcase how, I don't know, I guess the difference in, like, why does it always need to be exactly the same, and things change, especially when you're working in smaller, I guess, in smaller quantities. That is one of the luxuries of being a smaller brewery, is that you can work with like maybe like a small set of ingredients because it's available, and then might kind of move on, and that like cross of doing it just not being the same all the time. And also I think that for us kind of made more sense really than trying to. And also I guess the thing with like a core range is that, I don't know, quite often they've now become the same set. You kind of are like, I know if I like, you know, if someone was to release a core range, maybe you would have like a pale IPA and a lager and maybe something dark, and like that's fine. Obviously everyone's different, but like that isn't our like set of beers, I guess. So I was like, it almost felt a bit bold, maybe a bit crazy. Maybe I was just too nervous as well to be like, no, we're gonna do a core range and it's gonna be weird. But also at the same time, like I said, I really wanted it for there to be some flexibility and to not feel pressured into doing the same thing. And even the 3 beers that we've chosen, you know, we've got a ordinary bitter, bretted pale, and a blended saison. And like will it be a bretted pale next time? Who knows? Like, will it be a blended? Like, it doesn't need to be. Like, I guess I was like, it would be nice. That's why as well, like, I guess they're just called like bitter pales, because we can kind of move around those styles as well. And I don't know. I don't like to be tied down.
I think it makes perfect sense though, in this, especially, you know, how you like, you know, it's like farmhousey wild. It's all, you know, a lot of it can be quite, in some ways, spontaneous and exciting and fun. And I feel like having, you know, not a typical core range, but having it in this way that gives you that flexibility means that you can kind of really embrace how the seasons are changing, like even more effectively. Because you might go, oh, actually at this moment it's hard to get, you know, this particular yeast strain, or it's really hard to get this, but what if we played around and we did this instead with something that we can get? And it means that that flexibility allows you to thrive even more. And maybe you just go, I can get that particular ingredient, but what if I took that particular ingredient and also used something else a bit more that's inspiring me this year, or, you know, something that means something to me, to see how that comes out. It's nice because people know what to expect to a degree, but also it still allows you to play around a bit more, and you don't have to change everything up to do it. You don't have to shake things up entirely to do it. You can still keep, you know, artwork, and or you could keep artwork and then just change it slightly.
Exactly.
So that's a little bit more reflective, but yeah,
absolutely. And the idea is that if you have these beers and hopefully people like them, but if you have it and you like it, the next time you have it, it's not going to be identical, but hopefully what you liked about it will still be there, if that makes sense. So it will vary, but the, I don't know what a good word for it, the theme is ongoing, if that makes sense.
You've got core styles rather than core recipes. And you can play with it.
And yes, it's a weird set of 3 things to have as a core range, but
I love it.
But also, like, there isn't a huge amount of point us making a hazy pale ale, an IPA, a lager as a core range or something like that, because in all honesty, why would someone buy those from us? That's not really what we do.
It's not what you do.
So it's not much of a core range if it's actually a bit of a departure for us.
It wouldn't represent, I guess, us, or like also maybe what we want to drink like ourselves and stuff. And I think that is one of the nice things about work, I guess, like drinks producers who are like, no, I'm making this because I like to drink it. Because then what you get is, because everyone's got such a different sort of like tastes and stuff, I think that means that you get more diversity within the within the sort of, you know, drink sphere and stuff, so which is good.
And I think allowing for the changes to happen means that like that will keep people coming back as well, because I think like sometimes people don't necessarily like to have the same, like with the core range it's great for when people do want to have those, you know, beers in the fridge ready to go, like they know what to expect, have it with a barbecue, have it with friends around, easy to get your hands on more of, like those are the benefits, the core range. But the benefit of having a core style range is that you're more likely to get people to come back to go, I want to know what this but slightly different will taste like you will get that appeal of people know overall what to expect, but the curiosity about like what is that twist that you've done gonna mean. They might, someone that might go, I don't know, might go, actually I really enjoyed that and I want to see what this next one tastes like, so maybe I would order sooner than I might have because I don't want to miss out on that and I want to try what that's going to be like.
Well, that would be ideal. Our really cunning plan is that if you like it, hopefully you buy more, and if you didn't like it, don't worry, it'll be different next time.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Happy
so
for
really,
everybody.
you've got no excuse for not just
Yes.
constantly buying it.
That's no, but that's really quite smart, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's like if you love it you'll keep buying it.
Yeah,
And you're right, if you don't, it's like, well, I'll try it again next time,
next
and maybe
time.
the next one will be the something else that I like.
Yeah.
That's very smart, actually.
I think the kind of like idea of it as well came, like a lot of it's come to, I think from working in like cider and stuff, and I guess enjoying like being excited every year for certain things and being like, oh, I'm so excited for like when Raison d'Etre by Ross Cider comes out. Like I'm always like, get to the end of August and I know it's coming and I'm like, it's so exciting because I love being able to take, like, that's really cool. And then things like, I guess like Disco Nouveau and stuff like that, and even actually the Little Pomona table cider, theirs is like, it's the same cider in terms of like the way it's like it's bottled, the label's the same, but like the difference is just it's a different blend and it's slightly more seasonally appropriate. And like I really liked that. And I think because also I work in a restaurant where we change the menu every month, and again it's all about like that, you know, seasonality and stuff. I wanted to, like, it's not like this is obviously the first time I remember Cloudwater actually went through a phase of doing something simple like years ago, and I loved that. I really liked being like, oh, this is the like I think they did like a small, like a table and then a pale and then an IPA, and I loved being able to get that, like it was like the vintage, even though it's like, but I always thought that was really cool because you were like, oh, okay, it's, I don't know, it's quite, I think I don't know, I think that's quite exciting. But
yeah, it makes it a bit of an occasion and an event.
Yeah, definitely.
I think from the nerdier side of things, like I really, if I like, you know, making notes, because I quite like making notes when I'm drinking something, not necessarily for anybody else, more for me, because I feel like that's how it pushes me to learn more, because I'm actually having to use my brain more than just going, I like it, it tastes good. I've got to be like, okay, why do I like it? What do I like about it? What does this taste like? And sometimes you go, I've never had this hop before, I've never had this yeast strain before, and like, is what I'm tasting caused by this or by something else? And I think when you have something that also like you're doing, you might change it up slightly for like the beer nerd in me, it makes it really exciting to then be like, cool, what can I pick out that's different here? And like, I don't know, for me that adds the extra bit of fun to it as well, to be like, cool, now I get to have something like similar, and then go, but how did, you know, this twist something that caused this change, and I really liked that, and then maybe I'll then go and find other beers that have that particular yeast strain or combination of things and go, oh, maybe I like that as well. So yeah, I know for me that's quite fun, just in a nerdy way.
Yeah, but that's also, I'm really pleased that James is the kind of brewer who's very like wants to be super upfront about like the ingredients, because I know some people are a little bit like secretive about their ingredients and stuff, which I guess like, you know, I understand from like certain perspectives, but it is really nice because it means that we can have those conversations with customers and like be able to being able to have conversations about malt as well as like, you know, hop, like everyone wants to talk about hops, they're like, you know, front man, and I'm like, I want to talk about this little bit of wheat, you know, why not?
Right,
it's a nice thing to talk about.
heritage grains or
I don't feel
Yeah.
like when it
Little bit
comes to
of
yeast,
rye.
I feel like not enough places put like the emphasis on like what yeast can do and how changing yeast, you could use the same hops, but if you change that yeast to something else, like that could vary as well. And like I'm always waiting for like a brewery to do the same beer but with like the same single hop beer but with different yeast strains, to be like, actually, how does that impact that? Because I think
Ooh.
that would be quite interesting.
Cloudwater did it a while
Did
back.
they?
Cloudwater did it. But that a while back they did one, and they used a New England yeast and an English yeast, and I was amazed. I drank them side by side, and I was really surprised because I was like, oh, it's like I don't always really like a dipper because I find that it's too bitter, and actually I found that the New England yeast, I think it was the New England yeast, didn't add as much bitterness as didn't emphasize the bitterness the way that the English ale yeast did. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's like, so those things make, and it was like same malt bill, same hops, these different yeast strains used to brew the same thing. And it was really interesting how different elements were then emphasized or played down by those different yeasts. It was really interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting.
Yeah.
And like it's really funny because lots of breweries will like really, emphasize the hops they're using or something, but they'll actually be using their house yeast strain for essentially every beer they make.
Yeah.
And that's cool in some ways because then they have like a house style, and that yeast always makes, a contribution. You can sort of identify, like even if it's a stout, you're like, oh yeah, it's got that sort of Brewery X taste or something.
Yeah.
But like, so, I mean, that's not really us because, I mean, a lot of the beer we make has got wild yeast and stuff in anyway, so that sort of goes out the window. But yeah, we like using different yeast strains and like tailoring it to the type of beer we're making and experimenting with that. And like most breweries aren't able to do that, or like through historical reasons, or just like sort of cost reasons, they want to repitch and that sort of thing. So we're really lucky that we can play around with that. And like I mean, obviously changing your style of beer has like malt and hop changes as well, but like the yeast is really the big thing that you're using to change your style. And there aren't a huge number of breweries that make really even multiple styles of beer. Lots of places just have the same sort of pale ale, and maybe that's sometimes got some dark malts in, but really it's the same pale ale underneath sort of thing, which is great and which is fine. But like, I don't know, it's really fun for us to do that. And like my background is like growing up microbes and stuff anyway. That's what I always used to do before brewing. So like actually that's sort of normal for me and fun. And yeah, I can't imagine going back to house yeast, working in a bigger brewery. That's what I used to do, and it's great, but I didn't realize how limiting that was until I threw off that.
I think if we had, a big barn or something where we're like, it's all kind of, I don't know, if we were, how like mills, they've got like, that's their whole, like, and it's fabulous, but like I guess we're like don't necessarily have the ability to do that. Basically, we're not like it's not, it's a more, well, we're on an industrial estate, so it's not as, sexy as I think some people think that maybe like wild beer stuff is, but but I think but then it is nice because we get to do lots of other stuff, and also it means that we don't sit around and think, oh god, we can't ever leave this building because it's our livelihood, because all of the microbes live there.
Right, because
that's the thing that I don't think you think about, is it?
Burning Sky's got barrel staves, and they've got barrel staves in their roof, and like that's part of how they get theirs in there. And Durations put a particular type of wood in the roof of their barn for it, and amazing. But also then if you have to move premises
or something happens, like think about just a natural disaster happening, like, and you just kind of go, oh no, I didn't plan for this, like
the microbes gone.
Yeah.
It's hard, isn't it? Because it's not like because that's the thing is some stuff you can get around for a short period of time and be like, oh, maybe I can cuckoo brew at a friend's brewery or something like that, but like that would be something that I think you don't really think about as the risk there. But I loved on the release you guys did for this, where it was the wild yeasts roaming around the brewery like soot sprites from a Ghibli film. Like that was like, I saw that and I was like, this is my favorite thing out of the whole like that visual stuck with me so well, and I knew immediately like what that meant, and I was like, I love it. This visual for me was perfect.
It was nice. Quite a few people responded positively to that. I was like, I remember when I sent the press release over to James, it's the first time I've done a couple of press releases for Brewery, but that always feels a bit more I guess because I'm like, well, I'm in charge, so I'm just gonna do it, and then Rachel will just be like either yes or no, and then we'll move on. Whereas I was like, this is very serious, and this is like, I was like, this is my job and I have to do this properly. And then I sent it over and I was like, I don't know if I fully lost the plot or not, but he was like, I think it's the perfect amount of mad. I was like, okay, cool, that's all right.
That's what I loved about it, was that's exactly kind of what I felt. I was like, this is fun. Like I felt like the release was fun and it was playful, and it also gave me an exact, like from what I know of the beers that I've had from yourselves, I was like, this is the perfect way to put their beers into written word. Like I was like, it really matches that, like the fun playful aspects of Wilderness in writing. I was like, this is so good. And that line in particular, I was like, yes, absolutely love it.
Yeah. I'm sure like we're the like clean brewer nightmare in that way.
Oh yeah.
But, we're very welcoming, we're very inclusive.
Speaking of beers, I want to crack a beer. Which one should we crack?
Oh yeah, please do.
Which one should we do?
I personally think that you should have the bitter first. That would make the most sense in my head. And then
that sounds good to me.
I guess the clean one.
Yeah, that's the normal one.
The normal one. Excellent. I love a bitter, and I love the can art on all of these. They're absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, we're really lucky, and that was someone that Helen, you were vaguely aware of.
Sophie Potter works. She's an artist based in Cardiff, and actually it was a couple of years ago for our wedding anniversary. Sophie got her to paint our wedding flowers. So they're my Sophie. It's very confusing. There's two Sophies. One's my wife and one's the illustrator.
I was just about to ask you. I was like,
So my Sophie commissioned this painting, and I was like, this is so beautiful. And then I've kind of like been following her on Instagram and stuff for a while, but then we sort of talked about the fact that I think like we enjoyed, I guess, all of our previous labels, but there's also an element of like, it's almost like we're both it's like both being creative without the ability to be like artistic in that way. And I was like, I think it almost felt a bit like, I know for me especially, it felt a bit like frustrating, as I was like, I know what I want this to look like, but I don't have the ability to do this. And so we kind of were talking about like, I guess, starting to work with an illustrator and sort of what other artwork had inspired us and stuff, like from other and we were kind of looking at a lot of like natural wine and some of the like cider stuff, and then and then my Sophie had said, have you thought about Sophie Potter? Because she does lots of plants and botanicals and stuff, and I sort of thought, yeah, actually that might work. And James, we looked at her Instagram and stuff. James was really into it, and then we got in touch, and she's been amazing. Like she's almost too nice, and she's very talented, and that's really annoying. But
it made us both quite uneasy, didn't it? Like,
it's person is so good.
Yeah. And like also we both are a bit like low level curmudgeon-y, and she's very like positive, and I was like
and you're like, oh, I want to hate it, but I can't because it's so nice.
So brilliant. But yeah, no, she's been like amazing to work with and really fun, like and I was like, it's really nice actually, because now I get to like, I guess we like get to make the briefs, and then I was like, it's kind of like, I don't know, getting to be like, these are the kind of ideas that I've got, and then watching someone just, and it's nice. I was lucky because I've had that kind of experience with Brewery and working with Elliot, so it's been really fun to kind of, I guess, do it again on like a different project, and I guess looking at what we can do with the wilderness kind of like vibe, and how we can put that out there. And it was nice actually. My wife runs a cafe in Cardiff, and they have like some drinks fridges, and she said that it's the most women she's ever had buy beer from the shelves from the wilderness launch, which is really lovely. And like that's like, I don't know, I was like, that's like literally like what, I guess that's kind of what you want to convey, is that like, I guess, inclusivity of it not being, I don't know, guns and dinosaurs and all those things are fun, but they're not like us. So it is really nice to have to be able to like, I guess, I don't know, help James. I mean, James might be like, no, Helen, this is, what are you on about? But
no, it was nice. Like we didn't give, like, we were very open with our like design brief, I would say. But one of the main things was like, it's not going to be like neon robots and stuff. That's the
right.
And not because we've got anything against that. It's just that that's everyone else, right?
Yeah,
like
it's not wilderness.
Yeah. So,
I've always loved your labels for like the floral effects other than just the nature element to it, and it's like just pieces of like floral artwork. Like it's something that I would expect to see on some of these as well. Like you expect to see that on a canvas, like some hanging on someone's wall. It is just a piece of art, and I think that's eye-catching in its own way.
Yeah, hopefully it stands out, and it's like it's just meant to not be off-putting. If that makes sense. And like I mean, I can't imagine there's many people out there that need their beer to be super macho or something, but those people probably aren't buying our like what we would call like our like restrained, lightly sour, lightly funky sort of range of things anyway. Like it's not big and bold and masculine anyway. So like the branding probably shouldn't be either. That's I mean, obviously, I'm quite like a big, like tough, masculine guy myself.
Yes,
but
obviously.
That's thanks, Helen. You have to laugh.
Right. No, it's honestly, it's overwhelming being in your presence. I can't.
Yeah,
it's just too much.
Yeah, it's like being around Jason Statham 24/7. You know, it's too masculine.
Yeah. He, I think he modelled his look similarly.
Actually took it from
I mean, obviously.
So how does it, when you were doing the brief, did you just kind of, was it a case of, just because I'm really curious overall of how you go about doing something like this, do you kind of send across like, do you fall into the risk of sending across too much information of like, here's what I have in my head, or do you kind of go, here's a few key things, like here's what I really want to make sure is there, it would be nice if you could do this? Do you talk about colors at all, or specific like visuals, or was it more keywords and then Sophie did the art and then sent it back to you, and was there a back and forth period, or was it pretty much like one and done, got it immediately? Like I find this kind of stuff really interesting, so I don't know how it works.
No, there was a bit of that. Like I guess we tried to present like almost like a series of problems to be solved, if that makes sense. We had this idea of this rise and fall series, but we didn't quite know how we were going to convey it. We hadn't even necessarily worked out like the language we wanted to use to convey it, like an idea of a core range but don't call it a core range, and it changes a bit and that sort of thing. Helen had come up with some really nice briefs of like, here's some like, some colours and some very vague ideas, and we picked out some things from Sophie's Instagram that we liked, but we weren't trying to say like, do this. It was just like, hey, this is what you've done before that we really like, if that gives you any sort of guide.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were fairly open, weren't we? I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the colours, that was like that was probably the only thing that, and even then I'd sort of said, they don't have to be the exact, but like I'd put like the palette with all the different shades and stuff in, and but yeah, it was kind of, I felt it was actually really nice to talk to someone who isn't in beer, or like and isn't also, I guess, like she's not like one of our customers or anything before, so it was quite nice getting someone else's perspective, and kind of she was very much a part of that conversation about how the sort of name is on the can, and like where different things go, and like is like, have we gone to, there were certain things that I was like, I definitely want, like I knew I wanted the wilderness logo where it is, because it will swap and be on the other side for when we do Rise, because it's nice. The sun in the opposite sides of them, which is very
nice. Yeah,
that is
clever.
Yeah, and there's like really little things
That's
like that,
clever.
like the fall is like highlighted, so, and that'll swap round, so like just little things. And it was really funny talking to Sophie, because she was like, is that something that you think people are gonna notice, or is it just for you? And I was like, I don't really know, but I was like, I'd like it anyway. I think that I was like, the people that do notice, I don't know, I'm quite like I like to do things for a reason, I guess. Like I think because I don't know, like because I used to work in like lighting and stuff, like I'm very kind of like, often any designy stuff, I'm like, everything kind of has a purpose. It's not just there for fun. Like it is fun, but it's also very serious, and it's probably too high concept, because then when you actually look at it, it's not really that high concept, but I don't know.
I think that gives it like personality though, because some people might notice it and immediately get it, and like, okay, kudos to those people, like that's great. But then someone like myself, I might be like, I feel like it stood out to me and I don't know why it stood out to me, but then you've explained it and I've gone, that makes total sense, that's really clever. And I feel like the fact that there is a story behind it almost lets you connect with, like, it sounds so weird to say, but it's like almost lets you like connect with that like branding even more, like knowing there's kind of logic behind it, like you've not just done something because you've just gone, nah, just do it. Like the fact that you had a rationale behind why you're like, I want that there, and this represents this, and this is like that, almost gives you something to connect with on that level. And it's just a really like, oh yeah, that is really quite clever. And then you kind of start almost looking at everything in a different way, because you're like, oh, am I missing anything else here? Now let me like keep looking around.
Well, and if you on the description on the back, if you take the first letter of every word, it spells out.
No, it doesn't. And also, I was like,
very
I guess
drinkable.
I guess in some ways it's like a long lead up, because I guess that change people won't see until the next set come out next year, so which will be nice, but it's a bit of a I don't know.
Yeah, this is a beautiful beer. Like,
oh, thanks.
Bitter. Like, I like a good bitter, and you really get that like lovely biscuity malt in there, and that little bit of like earthy, spicy hop. It's lovely.
For me, the bitterness is so well balanced, because I don't, when something is like almost so bitter, like when there's a heavy bitterness but there isn't the other flavors like balancing it out as equally, I can just be like, oh, it's too bitter for me and my taste buds. But this, I feel like it's notable, it's there, but like it's balanced in such a way that it's just like almost very Moorish. Like I've had to just pour myself a little bit more because I was just drinking it too fast before we even got back around to talking about it. I was like, I'll have a little bit more and put that down, and then the glass was nearly empty, and I was like, oh no.
Oh, I'm really glad you like it. Like it's evolved out of a beer that we really have enjoyed making like a few times, which has been this sort of vague idea of a bitter but brewed with both English and Belgian ale yeasts.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we've tried that quite a few times, and it's really varied. But I mean, it's for me really. Like I really enjoy making that, and the Belgian yeast just adds a little bit of like almost like a interesting depth of flavour without it being a Belgian-y beer in any way. It is just a bitter. But yeah, like I'm really pleased that we make that. It's our way of making like an approachable beer that if we have the brewery open and someone comes in and knows nothing about it, I'm not just saying, oh, and here are the beers we make, and it's a wall of like 750ml sour things. I can show them like, here's an ordinary bitter, but still, like, I think it's got our vibe because it's a co-fermented thing. It's 2 yeast strains. It's and we can really play around with the recipe, like a few more Belgian sort of biscuity malts than a standard ordinary bitter might have. But then we can use some like locally grown English hops if we want to. We've got some East Kent Goldings in here, which are really classic. But yeah, for the next iteration, we might go a little lighter on the maltiness, and then dial up the hoppiness for a slightly more summery vibe.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the plan.
It feels very approachable. It feels very approachable as well for like if
definitely.
You have someone that maybe is somebody that likes more traditional styles of beer, or isn't the most adventurous person, like you said, they're not going to be going for that sharing bottle of like something really interesting and playful. But this is just the right thing that someone can get into, and I think it being sub 4% as well, it's 3.9%, it makes it a lot more easy to like session. It makes it easier for those people that aren't used to like higher ABV stuff as well, and that adds to its drinkability, I think. So I feel like it's a really interesting, you don't see too many people even in their core ranges having a bit like, I mean, with all three, like they are things that people don't tend to have in a core range, but I actually think that it is quite smart in its own way, because that is something that you can get somebody that's not as into like crazy craft beers or super wild beers or something like that. Like that, it's something that someone that is used to just going in a pub and having a more traditional style could also enjoy, and it's just like elevated in terms of the taste to what maybe they're normally used to. So it is a very very smart pick, and it's just really nice.
And it's nice because that's the one we can also have, like, because we do stuff on cask as well, so it is nice to have that as a sort of offering. And like, I mean, the it's funny actually, the bitter, I mean, I love bitters, they're my favorite, and that was like one of the main things that always drew me to Wilderness, was that there was often like a bitter on offer, and I thought that was I always really liked that. I was like, that's really cool. And is probably one of the reasons that I was like, that I wanted to work with James. So it's nice to kind of like, I don't know, take it and really like be able to showcase it. I
feel like it would pair really well with food as well. Like it's something that there's a good amount of flavor there, but it's not so bold in one way that you couldn't have it with a meal. Like I feel like it would pair really well with certain like dishes, or even just having like, appetizers with somebody, like just as like snacky bits. Like that is a beer that would go really well with having like, I don't know, cheese and crackers or something like that. It's something that you can like session, have a catch up with a friend, and have like little picky bits, and it would just like pair really well with that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it fits in with like our sort of, I guess, basic sort of aim with all the beers is that there's no like dominating flavor. Like hopefully there's lots of flavor, but it's quite broad in terms of thing. And when we go on to some of the wilder stuff and the barrel aged stuff, like okay, they taste totally different, but it's the same approach that like this has got maltiness and a bit of malt sweetness and bitterness and sort of a little bit of spicy yeast character and a little bit of maybe spicy hop character, but nothing is hopefully overwhelming. And between them, they make an interesting thing. And then compare that to some of the barrel aged beers, they might have some real deep funk and some sourness, but again, hopefully none of those are like leaping out and dominating the whole thing. And hopefully that way, I don't know, you get more flavor. It's really difficult to
more complexity.
That's it. It's hard to like phrase, isn't it? Because it's like you're like, oh, there's lots of flavors there, but there's nothing that's so like stand out. And I think that also helps. So there's nothing that's so like bold stand out that it's off-putting, because it's so well balanced with across the board with a lot of flavors that it's probably not. There's very few people that are going to have that and go, oh, there's something about that's off-putting to me. They all work really well, like all of the flavors in it. There's a lot of flavors in it, but they work really well to like harmonize together. That there's nothing that's like sticking out that's like, oh, this one particular element was so bold that it was hard for me to enjoy when I had it in this situation. I don't know if that sounds right, like if that makes sense.
And like, we don't want any of our beers to ever be like one note, if that makes sense. Which is, I don't know, that I guess that's just our house style. It's not critical of any other types of beer, because I think both Helen and I love all sorts of beers and all sorts of drinks actually, and like we really enjoy all sorts of things, and it also leaves loads of other beers for us to be able to have and enjoy without them being something we're trying to ape or it's our little spaces. I don't know, they're sort of restrained, balanced, don't say boring, little middle area.
I would say your beers are far from boring. I had
that wouldn't be a word that came to mind.
No, I had the Naive Melody, I think it was, the plum one, and I had that. Oh my god, it was so good. It was so good. I was like, part of me didn't want to open it because I was like, once I only had the one bottle, and I was like, once I open this and drink it, then it's gone. But also, I really want to drink it. Like, I was like, I don't want this to be one of those ones that I just save and save and save and save, and then it's been so far down the line that I'm like, oh, I wish I knew what it tasted like closer to when I got it. And I think there's some things that are fun. It's fun to see how flavors shape and develop and change as they age. But like, to some degree, that works really well when you have the baseline of what it should taste like. So if you've not should, but like, you know what I mean? Like when
it
you
works
first
better if you've got two.
Exactly. And
that's
I think at the time
exactly.
And I think at the time it's like when I had put the like last order in with yourselves before we did the Brave Noise one, and I was like, kept going back and forth to so many things I wanted to put in my cart, and I was like, it's like show restraint, and that was the one that I was like, I'm allowing myself. I think I got someone a birthday present of one of yours, like one of your sharing bottles. I was like, that's a birthday present, that one's not for me, so I need something also for me, because like I need to get myself something or I'll be, envious of that. So I got the ones for the podcast that I was like, and I'm also going to get this bottle because it sounds amazing. And it was.
Oh, good. Yeah. That's the sort of thing I think that really sums up like some of our things. So it was quite an ordinary base beer, if that makes sense. It was a Belgian pale, sort of restrained, normal, aged in a Bordeaux barrel for about a year and a half before the addition of some plums. But they were plums that were grown about 100 meters from the brewery, there's a really lovely food charity, and they let us go and pick the rest of the plums on their tree and that sort of thing. So that was our sort of way of introducing wild yeast into the beer. And then we left it for another year, and then we bottled it. And yeah, like we were saying before, like some of the breweries that have, you know, special buildings, or like brewery, like Belgian breweries in like the Lambic Valley or whatever, and the inoculation of the wild yeast is always coming from, you know, staves they've had for hundreds of years, or the same roof or whatever. Our way is often with those sort of things is locally grown fruit is just such an amazing source of wild yeast and bacteria. We have a little orchard that we use for lots of that sort of thing, which is great. And that's our way of having a little sense of place. But also, like, if we can use other local fruit, it's great. It's really fun. And like, you get the weird, mad flavors of like wild beers from your local environment. And it's quite interesting and exciting.
Yeah, it's really nice to get to work with like local growers and stuff as well. And I think James has done a really amazing job of like connecting with people in the, I guess, in that area as well. So yeah, it's really nice. Yeah,
and lots of my neighbours don't know that I'm stealing fruit from their trees at night.
That's also, yeah, exactly.
Like,
that's
we
called
keep having,
foraging,
like,
right?
We keep having wild
right.
animals around, but I don't understand like how they're
Where has
getting
the fruit gone?
That particular tree. I don't know. The key is you need to take it from like different bushes, so it just looks spread it out a little bit, displace it.
And just keep casually mentioning goats to people. Like, have you seen those goats that are around here?
Yeah, problem. Because I have.
Yeah. Keep eating the fruit.
It is that thing again, like back to that whole, like, for me, with the labels, for example, and I'm saying like that gives you something almost like to connect with when you have that story. But I think I tend to be more like I find that I'm gravitated naturally to some of the beers that do use like, say, local honey, or like, you know, first and last, how they do all like the forage stuff like that, like locally foraged things. Like, for me, I tend to gravitate a lot to those because I'm like, oh, it's really nice, because not only are you kind of buying something from this brewery, you're also sort of supporting their local ecosystem in a way as well. So it's like, I might not live, you know, near you, but it also kind of feels like, oh, it's nice because it's showing the support for that other small business that's there as well, or you know, farmers trying to sell things, or just the community as a whole. Like, it's, again, there's just more of like a story to connect with there, and I like that concept, that I just naturally think I gravitate to those beers when I see them out, or at least I want to know more about it, because I'm like, oh, that's interesting, but also the fruit they've used is, you know, local fruits, and yeah, I find that really interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we've noticed this year as well is it's just something that we've kind of talked about a couple of times, like the I don't know, so we were at a festival earlier this year, and there were quite a few different breweries with like fruited beers and stuff, and like they were pouring these beers, and they were all these like gorgeous, like amazing, like pinks and reds and everything, and like almost got a little bit like self-conscious because we just launched our Boise, which is the raspberry sour ale that we did in the 750s, and
that was delicious.
Like, we had one keg of it. That was very exciting. But so we had that with us, and I was like, it's gonna be really, I was a bit like almost a bit anxious about like that, because I guess customers are becoming so adjusted to the kind of maybe heavier fruited sours and stuff. So I was like, it's gonna look strange when we hand it over them. It's just the natural color that it is, I guess, because it was literally like, I can't remember how much, someone I think said to you, James, what did they ask you, how much fruit per liter, and you were like, what? Like a handful.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Like I just put it in till I felt like I should stop.
Yeah,
and then
like,
that felt right. Like
if you're working with a limited, because you're working with what's there. So yeah, you're not, I guess, like fruiting in the same way.
Yeah. Like for that particular beer, like the raspberries came from like there's a sort of green lane that runs down the side of my house that has wild raspberries growing in, but that's it. Like that's it. And I also wasn't going to take all of those because like birds and stuff are relying on those. So like we take a portion and we leave some, and that's the thing. So that beer had the raspberries in that it had in, rather than buying puree that comes from I don't know where in the world, sort of thing.
Question mark.
Which is also fine, but that way the fruit, if there's if we get a good crop, that's more fruit character. But if not, it's still the bugs and things on the fruit that are just as important for us. And it's important for us for it to taste like a wild beer, not just a fruit smoothie.
Yeah.
Not to say that those beers aren't also nice, because they are, and I really like a lot of those.
Me too.
But they're not what we're making.
Yeah, they're not wilderness beers. That's not what we want from your beers. We want that sense of place, like you said. That's that and that nature.
And it's that difference. Beers. It's that difference between bespoke ordering your fruit for, when you're ordering your fruit, it's like you have a set amount you have in your mind that you're like, this is how much I get. So like, it's obviously easier to track how much you've kind of done when you've like bespoke ordered for a beer, as opposed to being like, let's go see what I can forage today. Yeah. And then when you get it back, you're like, well, this is what I have to work with. You're not going to go like, this is what I have to work with. I better go weigh it up and then commit that to it. Like, it's one of those, it seems a lot more spontaneous of like, I've got what I've got and this is what I'm going to use, and we'll see how it turns out. And I think that also makes it more exciting, because if you are making the same stuff yearly and you're just relying on like the crop levels, for example, some years might be good, some years might not be as plentiful. And, that also makes it really interesting to return back to those beers, because you might be like, I really like this. I want to see what it's going to taste like if you were to change that fruit ratio to be a little bit higher or a little bit lower. Or I think it's kind of like the same reason why I really appreciate wines. Like, I mean, I'm not a massive wine person. Like, I'm by no means a massive wine person, but I really found like it was interesting when I've gone to wine tastings or something, and it's kind of like, one year they could have like the same winery could have a really good crop year and it would taste a particular way, and then all it takes is the weather to be slightly different one year and it tastes completely different. And I just find, again, the nerdy part of me just finds that incredibly interesting to be. It's when you use honey, you can get the honey from the same exact place, different time of year, and it could completely change the taste. And for me, that is what makes it so interesting and makes me want to keep going back.
I think that's really interesting. And like that, that's like our approach to seasonality, I guess, in a way. Is like we always have a really nice crop of blackberries in our orchard, and so sort of every year or so we have a beer that's been aged on blackberries, and that keeps moving forward. And it'll be a totally different beer each year. And sort of compare that to, so when I started brewing, I worked for sort of a larger regional brewery, and they'd been making at least a couple of the beers it was coming up for like 25 years or something. They'd be making that beer. And the challenge was with like yearly or like 6 monthly different harvests of malt and things, like you'd be trying to make the beer the same with changing ingredients, which is a real skill and like hard and like, and it's great and it's fun and it's a real challenge and like really good. But you can also go the other way, which is like, okay, this is the ingredients I've got to work with. Like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And that's fun too, right? But you can only do it on a small scale. You can't be a commercial.
No.
Sorry, I mean, we are commercial. Like Helen has wages that we pay, and we're a proper business, and we pay our taxes and that sort of thing. But like,
I just want to make it very clear that anyone that's listening, we pay our employees, we pay our taxes. We are fully licensed
on a larger scale.
Yeah. That's right. Like, it just doesn't, like, our way of doing things wouldn't work on a bigger
mass
scale.
production. Yeah, you couldn't mass produce to that degree and have that consistency. And I think even to some degree, like, in order to have that consistency at that bigger scale, like, that's when it starts becoming more from maybe this is just my opinion, I don't know, but that's when it starts becoming more like machine driven, of like your machine does it all for you. You just measure out how much of each thing and put it in, and it does it all for you, more or less, to a degree. And almost it feels like then you lose some of that. It's fine, it works, but there's got to be some level of, like, when you're passionate about brewing, that part of that excitement would just like disappear if you were to be on that scale where it's like you're not getting hands-on with some of these wild styles. I feel like that's probably what makes you tick, is being able to like be hands-on and like play around with the different styles of things. And
yeah, and like it's really fun. Like we've got like 30 barrels or so sort of aging, and like, you know, a couple of months ago we had Helen and I had a sort of session together, like tasting lots of them and making notes and being like, hey, this is what we should do in this next 6 months with these and stuff. And like our production, so we brewed those beers maybe a year ago, maybe 6 months ago, maybe more. Like we've got no idea what they're going to be released as or sold as or blended as, or which fruit is going to be added into which one and stuff. Like, this is not, I mean, it's not a sensible business, but there's a lot of, like, that's exciting for us, but also like it's, yeah, like we're so led by the beer and the barrels and what fruit we're going to have available and that sort of thing. Like, we're very, like, I think we're really lucky, but I guess we've also somewhat chosen this stupid.
I think it has to fit the way you work, though, isn't it? Because on some degree, like someone else, like you both thrive in that, but you might have other people that would be like, that's an absolute nightmare. I couldn't do it, and they'd feel too stressed out by that. But that's also why I think the rise and fall makes perfect sense for how you do things, because it completely works. And for other people, they might be like, I couldn't plan. Like, if I can't plan, what, like, you know, it might just be a more difficult for different ways of working.
Yeah, and like the rise and fall is meant to be there, like, because we sometimes have people order stuff, it sells well for them, they come back, would like to order some more, and we're like, oh no, that's all gone.
We don't have that anymore.
We now have these beers which are totally different, and they're like, oh, okay. So the rise and fall is, like, at least having some beers that people could maybe order more than once.
Yeah.
And yeah, they might not be the same, but at least it's the same vague thing.
Yeah. I also think the past year has been really weird, because obviously we've, you know, come out of COVID, and like I don't know, it's been such a, like, obviously, you know, everyone sort of stopped brewing kegs and stuff, and like, so that was weird. So then suddenly keg demand spiked, and then so I was like, oh, I was like, James, everyone wants kegs, we need to start making kegs. And then obviously the war in Ukraine happened, and then kegs became really difficult to get a hold of, due to like various parts of like kegs and stuff being made over there, and then also bottles, and then it just, like, it was just constant, like so many random things, and it was like, how are we gonna kind of like, yeah, I guess pull that together. But yeah, so it's been a funny, like, I guess, year of kind of trying to work everything out, and kind of but also really nice. And like the rise fall is like, that was the most, I mean, I had a thing not that long ago where I messaged James and was like, James, I forgot to launch the beer that we were supposed to launch. And he was like, yeah, I know, I did notice. I was like, right. We're gonna need to get some more, like, I don't know, I was like, you need to be like stricter, because I was like that, I was horrified. I
love the idea that you're like, okay, I'm gonna call you into your office, you're gonna shout at me.
Just like, I don't know what happened, it just completely, but I was like in a normal job, like I would be in so much trouble. I was like, you need to. So actually it's been quite nice doing the like rise and fall thing, because I was literally like, this is like I don't know, it's been really good for me, because I until working with James, I'd never done this sort of role before. Like I've done sales in terms of like customer service and being a bartender, but like I've never done this. And I'm really grateful that James very much just took a chance on me, because but that I was like, that's bad. I need to like, I was like,
love
it's
that.
really good for us to
The idea that you're like, I forgot to launch this, and he's like, yeah, I did notice, but it happens. It happens.
I would say, no. We're quite relaxed about releasing stuff. Like we released something a couple of weeks ago that had been bottled. So Helen's been with us for about a year. We released something that had been bottled before Helen started the other day, just because I'd been sitting on it and it didn't feel quite the right time of year to release it. And so we're not quite as, I don't know, we're not this relentless sort of schedule driven organization as a thing. So it was quite interesting to have this rise and fall series, and we were like, right, it's all going to launch on this day, and I was like, oh crash, better actually brew some beer then and like get it ready. And
I know, like building
deadlines,
like doing the production schedule and stuff. I was like, the thing is, I am like naturally quite like organized. I think from doing like theatre and stuff, like that's like I did, well, the kind of main thing that I did was stage management, and then I went into lighting through there, and like that is just lots and lots of like organization and stuff, and I guess project management. So I was like, there is a really organized part of me, but there's also like, together with the organized bit, there's also this sort of chaotic, like just like almost sometimes completely useless individual, and like trying to make those two people work together can be quite hectic sometimes. So I am like, no, James, I need you to like, I do need you to you know, be like, no, has this been done? Because otherwise, like sometimes I'm just like, I come into the like, this is my little office, I'll come in here and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. What am I doing?
Do you have the conversation outside? Yeah, okay, we'll do this. Then you get in the office, you're like, I don't want anyone to see this.
Because neither of us are very good at like being like firm with each other. So we've outsourced it. We've got like a shared like to-do list thing that we set like deadlines for ourselves and each other, and it's like a really like, I guess sometimes it's passive aggressive, right? Like the way we sort of set deadlines for each other, but it means there's never any confrontation. It's great.
It was the app, right?
Yeah. Asana told me to do it, so therefore like that does help, and it'll be like, this hasn't been done, and I'm like, oh, okay.
No, but then the app gets a bit aggressive with you, because it comes up with a thing saying, do you want to send an update to your team explaining why you're running behind your deadline? and there's no button that says no.
It's like, you've got to. I'm telling
do you want to? Yes, or
yes,
definitely. And you're like, oh, yes.
So that's fun. I was going to suggest, in fact, because this is the other one I have here, that I was going to sample the saisons. So I wanted to, given we've been talking about barrels and things.
Yes,
that would be good.
So I mean, you say you've got like this is a interesting lineup for core beers, but when I'm homebrewing, people are like, oh, you're going to open a brewery, what's going to be in your core range? And I was like, a saison would be in my core range. Like, why wouldn't you have a saison in your core range?
Smells good.
I agree. I mean, so I'd say this is a good reflection of the sort of the beer we make, which is pale and dry and a little bit funky.
Smells amazing.
Yeah, so this is our way of making like a beer which is vaguely reproducible out of processes and ingredients that are inherently not. So this is a blend of a 1 year barrel aged saison and a fresh one, so we can stretch a barrel further, sell it at a slightly lower price point because it's not had to be all barrel aged, makes it a bit more accessible, both in terms of price, but also like it's not quite so funky and aggressive is the wrong word, but like it's restrained. But it also means we can brew the fresh beer in order to complement what we've got in barrel, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So this one we brewed a fairly low ABV, fairly light base to complement a beer which was a little funky, a little sour, but not too much. And then we freshened it up with a little dry hop once it was blended together. And that's the sort of style of beer I think we'd like to make and make a thing.
Yeah,
definitely.
So
we're pushing it quite hard.
I really like the
It's
kind of
beautiful.
orange and like oranges and lemons sort of vibe to it, and like that kind of flavor profile. It's been fun actually. We keep coming at that in different capacities. Like one way was like with a certain yeast strain that we'd gotten, and then another one was like we got some experimental French hops, and they were like crazy. They were literally just like oranges and lemons, and it was like it's been really kind of cool to like come at that at different angles where, and then like I guess some have like actual orange in, and then it's quite nice to just keep that as a pairing. So.
It's surprisingly, like from when you smell it to when you taste it, it's like there's a surprising amount of like sweetness in it that I just wasn't expecting, and like almost like a orange blossom.
Yeah,
like, I don't know. That's the best way I can explain it.
Absolutely. So the fun thing is like, so this is dry hop with Citra, and Citra obviously is that sort of classic thing. And in a pale ale, if it's just hop with Citra, you know exactly what you're going to get. It's going to be super clean. I say one note a lot, but like it's got a real identifiable flavor.
Yeah.
But it's ripe for combining with Brett in a mixed culture because it really broadens that flavor out, and you go from that real like sharp citrus note to like orange and almost verging towards like rose in a nice way, and it really lends itself to mixed firm stuff. It's a fun thing for this. It's because it's got that sort of fruity nose and fruity taste. It lulls you into thinking that it's sweet, even though it's like it's actually really bone dry. Like because it's a saison and had a mixed culture in, that sugar's all fermented away, but it doesn't. It's not that sort of mouth drying out dry. It's not like a really dry white wine, even though it's just as like sugar free as that in a sense.
Yeah, it's got like a juiciness to it, but not
it is still dry. But then there is like, that's what I was saying, it was like sweet. It was almost like sweeter that way than I was expecting. And so it kind of took me by surprise. And then it was like it went from sweet to like immediately like a bit floral, which is why I was like orange blossom, because there was almost like this. It is very like I would say very delicate. Like the flavors are very quite delicate, and there is like a complexity, while also like I don't know how to explain it. It is very like
it is
very
elegant.
enjoyable.
Thanks. Well,
yeah.
That's very much what we're aiming for. Like Helen summed it up really nicely. That we had a beer that was not too far off this, something we did a year or a bit more ago, and it's almost like for a saison, it's almost got hints of like a New Englandy IPA. Like it's soft and juicy.
Yeah,
quite pillowy. It feels.
Despite it being like a totally different thing. This is quite young, this version, so because it's got that mixed culture in, all of our beer has got all of the yeast and bugs in still. There's no filtering, there's no anything, so they're all live, and in particular this one is can conditioned, as was the bitter, so like in a year's time it'll probably be more interesting, more funky, but while it's fresh and it's got that sort of hop freshness too, like it has got aspects of hopefully people that are into the sort of flavor profile of a juicy, not too bitter pale can find something to enjoy in this as well.
I think so.
I don't know, that's a tricky selling point though, right?
No, but it was it was definitely, I was having that. I was like, it's juicy, and I wanted to say it's juicy like a New England, but it's not. But that's exactly what you described is what was going through my head, and I was like, but then it's got that kind of vinous, white wine like quality to it, and it's dry. It's all that combined together. It's lovely.
It is that way that you're you're almost like, oh, if I'm the only one that tastes this, I almost don't want to say that in case people are like. Because you almost think it and then you go, oh, it's going to sound really stupid. And if I say that and I'm the only one that's got it that way, people are going to be like, what are you talking about? But so far of the 2 out of the 3 we've had so far as well, I'm almost gutted that I opened them because I was like, I want to go and take them to
just got to buy some more.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. The second you went in a year's time, this is going to be really fucking interesting. Well, okay, I've obviously got to buy more now.
Some more now.
But it's that thing of I want to share this with the people local to me to be like, try this. This is so nice. If you don't normally like saisons, try this because I think you might actually like it, even though maybe you're used to just pales and you haven't gone on with saisons before. This is the flavors in it, I feel really lend themselves to being quite interesting, and especially for people that maybe don't or haven't previously found a saison that they've enjoyed.
Yeah. And while again we're not calling it a core range, and anyone that calls it a core range, we're
we dealt with accordingly,
right? So it's fine.
You're both very, very stern.
Yeah.
You are both going to set them straight on that. Your to-do list to tell them off.
Yeah. But those things have got to be approachable, right? And that's something that's important to us, with even though it's a bit of a mad set of 3 beers to be anything approaching a core thing, keeping them approachable is really was part of the design of them. But also hopefully they've got enough interest for the nerdier end too.
Because I think that what will happen is that they'll be drawn in by the illustration, if not the style, and then they'll try the beers and then they won't be upset. So you know what I mean? Whereas
I don't think anyone could be upset with these beers. They're gorgeous.
I'm just picturing you putting it on a wall though, step 1, lure them in with the photos. Step 2, they're not mad about it. Yeah. Step 2, they drink it. Step 3,
they're not mad about it.
They're not mad.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to please everyone, but I think making some of our, I guess the idea is that if we can get people interested with that range, and then hopefully then they'll start to then buy some other bits, and then eventually it's a bit it being a gateway to maybe trying more sour stuff or barrel aged stuff. And then also if not, then that's fine, because if you're no, I just really like the bitter, or we've done some cask UK hot pales and stuff, then it's well, we have something for you, it's just not this stuff. So we're kind of trying to, I guess, approach a lot of drinkers, but you will be disappointed if you're looking for New England, because we just there are elements of and that's why I wanted to do this. I really wanted that saison to be a part of it, because I was I remember when I had the sort of the original from before, I was this is it's a saison for a New England drinker, and so I kind of thought it would be a nice. I like it when there are flavors hidden in things that. I've always really liked that thing when you drink something and then you go, oh, this is this reminds me of something that's completely different. It's been made in a completely different way. They shouldn't have a similarity it doesn't make any sense, but they do. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of how like I started getting into, like, I guess learning more about wine and learning more about cider and stuff was because of that. And I liked going to tastings. Because I was learning about beer and then going to wine tastings as I was learning about beer and being like, this is crazy. This tastes like a goose. And people being like, what? Like that kind of like, I don't know. I loved that. And I've always said I'd love to do like it's quite difficult. I don't know how I'd do it. I've always not liked the idea of doing a tasting of stuff where it's like things that are almost the same, but they're made like completely opposite ways. But
that is speaking to the core of me, I feel like, because like that's what I love, is being like, it sounds so stupid, but even when it's something that's like, cool, I've got, I don't know, a bunch of beers that are meant to taste like rhubarb and custard, like that, I'll get those, then I'll get the rhubarb and custard, and I'll be like, how I like to kind of see like how similar they are to said item, whether that's like food item or a different type of drink, or it's like, you know, maybe people are making Bucks Fizz / mimosa beer, and it's like, okay, well maybe I want to get a bottle of Bucks Fizz or make a mimosa and see how that stands up to the beers that are trying to like emulate that. Or like Joe and I have done it with like cocktail in beer, and there's like a bunch of stuff that we're trying to kind of see that. Or we've done like an episode on wine. Effectively, we did kind of like a 2-parter on wine, where it was like, okay, approaching it from the lens of, we've got a few beers that are red wine beers, a few that are white wine, rosé, sparkling wine, like that element, and kind of looking at it and going, in isolation, do we like this beer? Yes, actually, we might quite like that beer. Is that a good can you make that connection, however, between red wine and beer, to the degree that I could give a red wine drinker who is adamant that they don't like beer, this particular one, and they would actually go, maybe I don't dislike beer, I just haven't found the style that I like. And it's like those elements, like I absolutely love that. I completely nerd out over that. So like, to me, if you were to be like, I'm going to do a tasting of these bottles that are like meant to be emulating, like they've been aged in red wine barrels, let's just say, and we want to kind of see the similarities there, even though they're like different, it's a beer versus a wine, you know, can we pull out those similar flavors? Like that to me is like completely up my alley, like absolutely love that. So I'm very pro, like, yes, definitely, like that would be really cool to see, to be honest.
Nice.
But yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine you trying to advertise that. It's like, here's 5 different drinks that all taste identical, but here's the twist. They're all different.
They're all
the same, but like they're not,
but different.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Yeah, this is a bit fun.
Like you'll get it. Cool. You'll see it when you're there.
Yeah,
but I think even multi-house, like a household of people that drink beer but drink very like different things, like maybe somebody drinks something a little bit more adventurous and somebody is a little bit more subdued with the flavor profiles that they like, and they need something a little bit more delicate. Like I feel like the range you offer there is quite good, because someone can put in one order and cater to multi different tastes, and I feel like still end up satisfied. Like I always think that's really good, because I think it's great when a brewery does one style, like one thing really well. There's nothing wrong with that. However, it does make it harder when you have like multiple people that you're trying to put together one order for. And that could be really difficult if you've got different taste buds. And it's just like, even just if I just pulled up your website, I bet I could go through like a bunch of different cans where it would appeal to someone that is a bit more nerdier and likes all those like really niche, you know, flavor profiles of fruit or wild stuff, interesting, funky stuff. But also, for me, I could find beers. Yeah, I could find beers for somebody that maybe is like, ooh, I don't want too funky. That may be too much. Like the blended saison is like probably that first good step for them to slowly start trying more and more funky stuff without being overwhelmed. Because I think the problem is, if you throw someone in the deep end and they try something that's like too crazy and out there, they might just go, oh no, I'm never trying that again, because I know I really didn't like that. Whereas if you kind of like ease them in and they start going, I like that, and you figure out what they like about it, you can slowly add more and more complexities to it based on what they did and didn't like.
Yeah,
and I feel like your
absolutely.
range offers that for people, which is quite good.
Yeah, hopefully. Like, it's because it's just me that sort of in the brewery most of the time. If people come in like, often they won't have any idea the sort of things we make, but it's nice to be able to sort of talk through what sort of things do you like. Oh, maybe you like this or something. What's actually the most challenging is when people come in and say, what have you got that's like an IPA? And I'm like, nothing.
Yeah, no.
You're like, oh, let me think on that one.
But yeah, no, it's really nice. And like, people are generally quite open, and yeah, and as you say, like, you can pick out flavors that people like, and like, we've got a really dry saison aged in a sherry barrel with some sherry floor, like yeast, that I think, in fact, you guys might have a can of that possibly. I
do.
Which is
exciting.
I read it and I was like, oh yes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yes. And the label's gorgeous. So I was like, double yes.
So like, that's quite an out there beer, right? But for people that aren't really into beer, like, actually that's quite approachable in a lot of ways, because it's got familiar flavors, and flavors of sherry are very welcome to a lot of people, and something quite dry is quite, like, people like really dry white wine. That's not an unusual thing to like, and so you can sort of pick out things that are unusual in beer, but aren't actually things that humans inherently hate, which is always that's what we try and build our beers off, really. Like,
things that people don't inherently hate.
That's your criteria. Just make sure we don't do anything people inherently hate. We're good.
Yeah, and I also think that, I mean, the fun thing about the house I grew up in is that it's like,
we should say that's the sherry beer.
Yeah, that's the sherry beer.
You're like, the one thing I really liked about the house I grew up in.
Yeah, not the one.
I was like, let me just throw that in there for anyone that's listening and didn't see the label.
Is that it actually is the kind of thing you would probably normally find more like, I think, in like a 750, and the fact that it's in a 440 is really nice, because you I guess it's not it's not too much, basically. I think it might be, if you were to, I mean, if you're like me and are very comfortable to drink 750s on your own, I do think you might still be like, oh, this is actually a bit much. And I guess, and if you're not sharing it with anyone, but then that's the nice thing about having, I don't know, having something that I think should be in a 750 in a 440, because it's, I don't know, nice for people who don't drink, like, don't want to drink large quantities on their own, or maybe their partner doesn't like certain types of beer and stuff. So I do think that was really nice. It's really cool. So
there's nothing that's more frustrating when you see something that's like super, super interesting, and you're like, oh, but it's in that 750ml bottle, and you're like, oh, do I go for it, knowing,
like, let's be real,
is definitely a share.
We've both got cupboards full of 750ml beers that we're like, we need to share that with someone, and like, we've not got together, like, we've not had time to get, like, or you just can't get people together to do it, and then you're like, oh god, it's gonna have to sit there.
There's specific ones that I set aside that I was like, we have to do a bottle share, and we keep going yes, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
keep collecting more, also, like it's Pokemon. It's
also sad, right? Like sometimes you'll buy a beer and then you'll think, oh, it's too special to drink, and then you'll never actually drink it.
Yeah,
that isn't what beer's for.
Got to drink
right?
it.
Well, exactly.
Right up there for that. The fun time is now. The best time.
I feel personally attacked right now. I just sitting too close to home. I'm like, I know, guys, I'm sorry. This is my intervention. I apologize.
Also, I just think the idea that people didn't drink through their stash during COVID. What were you doing?
We built it up since then.
All I did.
We continued to add to it. That's the problem.
That was the problem. Because then there was that, like, well, I really like these breweries and I want to make sure that they're still here, so I'll just keep ordering. And then being like, I'll just keep ordering, but I couldn't drink out the volume. And because I think there was also that, like, hyper consciousness of being like, oh, well, I don't want to start drinking too much knowing that I'm at home and I'm not really going to. So it was kind of like that, like, ooh, I should make sure I'm moderating myself and would like pull, but like would make that effort to pull back, because I know that if I didn't, I like completely would have. But then you're also being like, all right, who can I support? Like, I want to spread the support out while I can, like for as long as I can. And but not drinking too much. It was just like, oh yeah, it's bad.
Well, we're also really guilty, right? Because we had like a barley wine in bottles the one that we've only just started selling, because we sat on it for a year, because I was like, well, if we sell it now, like people will drink it and it's only going to get better for a year. So if we sit on it, then people can't drink it and they can't, they can't ruin it for themselves.
They can't. We are doing you a favor.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. It's the respect we treat our customers with. Like, we won't sell you this because you bloody going to drink it.
How dare you? You got to wait.
I've just pulled it up, and again, the label's beautiful. And it sounds nice. So I'm like, yeah, we just had this conversation about how like I shouldn't just sit on these beers.
You're gonna buy some more.
It's meant for drinking, and I'm like, oh, stop it.
Her mum found her stout cupboard the other week.
It's like the big 750ml like sharing bottles and stuff, and they're the ones that I keep saying like, hey guys, we have to do like a bottle share, and then it never happens because I'm like, I cannot drink through these barley wines and these stouts and like big bottles of like lambic beers and stuff. Like I had my like just like the Cantillon and stuff like, and I'm like, I can't sit and have that all by myself. Well, I need to share it.
I have a customer who came in the other day, and he had a similar problem, and he's solved it now. He's found that if he has a share a bottle or a barley wine or something every time he has a bath, then it encourages him to wash all the time, but it's really getting through it.
I bet.
So,
I love and respect that.
I love that so much. Oh,
casual bath with the 750. Love
it. My problem is though, my problem is I feel like by the time it takes like fill up a bath, I lose the interest in the drive to like have the bath, or like you get in it and you're like, it has to be like really, it has to be like really hot, and then you're like, now it's too hot and I don't want to sit in it anymore.
And in this day and age, you can afford to have a bath.
Right.
Yes.
Fill a whole bath.
Economy. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say though that like, so I'll never get over. I remember a guy coming in to the old beer bar that I used to work in, and he had this, like, he was so excited. He had this beer, and it was like 10 years maybe, and like it was like from an American brewery. It was like for like I think it was almost like maybe a barrel-aged stout. Anyway, he opened it and it was bogging because he'd had it for so long that it had gone bad. And I was like, this, and he was like, honestly, I've never seen a man look sadder. And I was just like, and like, because I get like, that's a huge, like, he likes to collect them and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's the risk, I guess, with that, is that you're like, I don't know, you don't want to, you don't want to hold on for something for too long, especially when it comes to maybe more of the wild, like fresher stuff, that is a fear. So I wouldn't, maybe don't hold on for too long.
No,
it'd be really sad. But
it's more the ones that I deprioritize, the ones that I've bought multiple bottles of specifically to have one. And then like if it's a yearly release, like for example, Siren's birthday every year, they do Maiden.
So
it's like I'll buy like multiple Maidens, and then it's like, cool, I have the one, and then the next year's release comes out and it's like, okay, buy multiple bottles, have the one, and compare it to the last year's one as well. And like that level I've done that.
That's an admin nightmare, right? Like that's,
it really is.
Helen and I wouldn't be able to manage that. That's
You've got your to-do list.
Spreadsheet.
The to-do list will do it for you.
And I love spreadsheets because I like being able to make them different colors. That's the extent of my like spreadsheet ability. I'm just like, yes, and this one will be pink.
Like, did you see my spreadsheet? Appreciate it.
Yes, exactly.
I was only gonna have 2 out of 3, but I feel like I'll just crack open the third one and we'll finish it off.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. If you guys have the time, I'm gonna crack open the third one because now I'm like, I want to taste it now. I don't want to set it aside.
The 3, you know.
Yeah. I've got a question about this label. So this is the Bretted Pale. I'll show the label if you're watching the video. It's a cactus with some flowers on it and a pink cowboy hat. How did the cowboy hat make it on there? That's adorable. I'm loving it. Was this like something that specifically someone said that would be cool, or did Sophie show it to you and you went yes?
I think someone said specifically that would be cool, and that someone was Helen. I think that's
Yeah, well, I had this idea when I was trying to, because I was actually, funnily enough, this came about because I was trying to work out how to describe Brett to someone who like doesn't really drink beer and kind of just like isn't a sado. So I was like, how do I describe this?
Helen, we talked about this. We're not supposed to describe our customers as sados.
I prefer the term geek, thank you.
Yeah. It's cool though.
I will also answer to sado though.
Yeah.
We'll answer to sado as well. Yeah.
I'm one too. It's fine, guys. But yeah, I was trying to work out how to do that, and I was like, I guess talking about the fact that it was wild and this is what's weird because I didn't do this intentionally, and so I said, I was like, it'd be quite cool to have something that's a bit like Wild West. Also, we're in the West, being in Wales. I was like, that's quite cool. I was like, and it was going to be a wild beer. And I had sort of like said that I had little like pictures of, I actually had some pictures of Dolly Parton, and then I had some pictures of like, I want it to be like cowboys, but not like cowboys, like not like cop cowboys, like Dolly Parton cowboys. Fun ones,
like leather chaps. Yes.
Yes.
Anything else? No. That's
no.
I love the idea of what this brief said. I want cowboys, but not like cowboys.
Yeah.
Stay with me, Dolly Parton cowboys.
Dolly Parton cowboys. Yeah.
And I feel like that nailed it actually.
Yeah. I was like, so and I sort of said, maybe like a cactus would be quite cool. And then I was like, talking about all the different flavors and stuff. Actually, one of the pictures, I did send her multiple pictures. I kept finding pictures of frogs and cowboy hats. And I was like, oh, I want a frog. And then I was like, no, because we're plants and flowers, and that's fine.
That's so oddly specific. Frogs.
I just kept finding them, and I was like, actually, maybe
the algorithm. You found one and went yes, and the algorithm was like, so you like these then?
Yes, I just kept saving them. I was like, this is so good. But anyway, the weird thing is that this beer, so it's a Bretted Pale, and the beer that it's based on, the I guess original version of this, had like a pink background with cactuses on it. It was called Heavy Weather, and I don't know. When I did the brief, I wasn't even thinking about Heavy Weather. That was what was so strange. And then when James was like, it's really cool and it'll be nice for customers because who have had it previously because of the link, and I was like, yes.
Yeah. I planned
but
that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Marketing genius.
Yes. Exactly. This is my first rodeo. I know what I'm doing.
Literally.
Literally.
Dolly Parton rodeo.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's kind of how it came about, really. But that was the most fun to, I guess, look at. And it was nice, actually. One of the things that she did discuss in the early sketches was like the idea of a horse blanket with like and having like almost different imagery and like the patchwork of it, which was really lovely. And I really liked that. But I think after we discussed the kind of cactus thing, I was like, actually, I really like the and having the little cat, I kind of, that was the one we were drawn to. But
I think also I felt that having a literal picture of a horse blanket was a little on the nose for like a Brexit fear. That's just me.
I feel like in one way it would be really cool and really, because like it's like one of those like, if you know you know. If you're a
saddos would be like horse blanket.
Exactly.
But the non-saddos might be a bit like, what?
Exactly, they would have been confused. But I also thought, again, going back to like why we couldn't have the frog, and I am upset about it, but I was like,
I'm not bitter.
It's fine, but I just was like, it because of the I guess the floral and the plants and stuff. I was like, it would be nice to kind of stick to that, and but I was sad about the frog. It's fine. It sounds
like you've talked yourself out of it. You were like, we just couldn't have it. It would have never worked. It would have never
worked. In the most recent design brief, I was just sending pictures of like cats and space, and James was like, what? I
just love the idea that you were sending out these like random photos of like a frog and a cowboy. You're like, so what do you think about this? Not for the design, I just want to send you this photo. What do you feel about it?
I keep putting in the briefs, this isn't for the design, but I really like it and I'd like you to see it. So I hope Sophie likes it.
I feel like makes you understand my thought processes.
I feel like I can relate to that on a higher level. It's like, I know this isn't it, but I need to make sure that you see it.
I need to share it with someone.
Yeah.
So congratulations, it's you. I hope you appreciate it.
This genuinely shows how we work, because we try and be like really transparent with all the stuff, and like if you look hard enough, like you can find all like our brew sheets on our website and stuff, and we were like, oh, let's do some mood boards for like our new thing, let's do them on Pinterest and make them public so people can see what sort of things we're thinking of. And then I was like, it can't just be pictures of frogs, they can it? Like, we'll just look insane.
A whole board of frogs and cowboy hats. And then like one picture of a cactus.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, I see. Got it. And like Dolly Parton.
Yeah. It was, Wild West, but not.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So
I did like that in your brief as well. You did say specifically about like you were doing things and then eventually it stopped looking like spaghetti on a wall. And I feel like what you've just said there.
Yeah, pretty much. Just slowly getting down to what we're actually trying to do. But yeah. So yeah, it's I don't know. I was like, maybe she'll look at the thing and then be inspired in some way. But
you should have been like, this is for your inspiration.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Yeah, I think what's happened is she's been really professional and been like, yes, lovely, thank you for all those suggestions, and then just like, I'll just draw something nice, shall I? That'll be the
You don't know though, next exhibit could be all frogs and cowboy hats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
You don't know. You don't know.
She can thank Helen for that.
Yeah,
be like,
say, that was me. I am the muse for that one.
She'll be like, I just saw, it really stuck with me what Helen sent me, and now I've done a whole series on frogs and cowboy hats.
Oh goodness.
Now I want to go and get, you just inspired me to go Google frog and cowboy hat.
What's weird is like it's such a specific design direction to give someone a brief as, but then to say, but we don't actually want a frog, right?
I know we can't do this, but also just wanted you to see it.
Yeah, like I don't actually want you to do this, but I also kind of do, but I also don't.
If you don't do it,
yeah,
do it, but don't do it. And then if it happened, you'd be like, James, I said don't do it.
Yeah.
I think also part of me was like, if maybe I sent it to her and then it inspired her to do it, then maybe James would feel less like he could, if he didn't want that, maybe he would feel like, well, I can't really say I don't want a frog. I don't know why this has happened, but I can't say it. But even though he does sign off the briefs, obviously.
Slowly in the brewery, there's just going to be like pictures of frogs and cowboy hats going up, like frogs in various hats will just slowly start appearing. Subliminal messaging.
Maybe I'll just start posting them to our social media instead. So, that'd be nice.
With the caption of, I just wanted you all to see this.
Yeah. I did say we need to up our social media presence, so maybe that's what I'll do.
There you go. Solid
Really
idea.
confused
Solid
people.
idea. So we've got Joe and I are wearing these brilliant
We are.
t-shirts that you've sent us
Oh,
very
yeah.
kindly.
No, they're great, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
really fun.
Cool.
Yeah, and you can get them on the website, I have seen.
You
How
can.
did the design for this then, now that we're talking about designs, how did you go about the design for the t-shirts?
So they're actually, so Helen and I met because, so Helen runs the Brilliant Beer and Collective, which is like sort of an online magazine come industry force for good. Is that a good description?
Force for evil.
Oh yeah, sorry, force for.
Yeah.
But yeah, you commissioned me to write a little article on like what a fantastic person I am, which worked out really well because of my huge self-confidence. Yeah, Elliot, who does all the illustrations, this is based off his illustration for that, which is really cool. But it really fits with like the new direction, right? It's
Yeah.
It's nice, and it's nice as well because even though, you know, I've just managed to aggressively commission 3 South Wales artists, even though Wilderness is based in Mid Wales. We just won't talk about that. But it is also really nice to get to work with, getting to work with Elliot on this in this capacity was really fun. And then we've also, so we're doing a tasting at Scaredy Cats in Cardiff this week, and the poster for that was designed by Ellie Sykes, who's another really amazing artist. So it's been really cool, I guess, getting to do these different things and work with different people. But the piece that was super crazy. In fact, my Sophie said the other day, oh, how did the t-shirt come about? And I was like, well, don't you remember when I was like, I don't know why I'm asking, because I'm like, in my head, I think she reads everything that goes on Brew, obviously. But also I know that she's very busy and doesn't always, and that's fine. I don't tell her that often when her newsletter for Hardlines comes in, I'm like, yes, and I don't have time. Sorry. So it's fine. I said, I was like, oh, James did the piece for the Welsh Drinks Month, and she was like, I genuinely just don't remember that. I was like, that's crazy. How very serendipitous. And then only then, that was in the March, and then in the December I started working for you, so it's all just a long con.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, right? Yeah, it's great. But I really like the t-shirts. I think they're, because they've got a nice like floral design. It's very much our speed. There aren't many brewery t-shirts out there that are quite so flowery. I would say.
It's nice though, isn't it, to have that, just to have that diversity. It's quite nice. So. And there's multiple colours. I think Joe and I happen to get the same colour, which is great because we love matching. But there's other colours of it as well, if lilac's not your favourite colour.
And also hibiscus.
Hibiscus is nice. Yeah. But printed by like a printer like just up the road from us. And we're all about, local stuff and
apart from all the South Wales stuff, but we'll ignore that.
It's still Wales.
Yeah, and it's local to you, right? Like that's
exactly.
Fine. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just to check, did you say Hardlines, like the coffee place?
Yeah.
I went there. I went to one of the locations of it. I've got coffee in my cupboard, the Christmas blend. So good. I went in the market, in Cardiff Market.
Oh, nice.
And it was so good because I had a laundry list of like beer and coffee places I had to go to when I took my parents to, they were over from the US and were like, they wanted to go to Cardiff. So like, cool, we'll go to Cardiff. My sister-in-law lives in Newport. So I've been like a few times when I've gone to see her, and
Newport massive. Yeah.
So I've gone to see her quite a few times. So I've got to get into some of these places I've never gone to before while I'm staying over in Cardiff versus going back to Newport for the night, and had a whole bunch of coffee places on the list. And I was like, Hardlines on the list. And it was so good. And then I was like, yeah, gonna have to leave with a bag of coffee. So I did, and the label on it was like super cute. So I was like, that I want the Christmassy one. This is great. And then I read like the flavors that are on it, and I was like, oh yes. I haven't tried it yet. I've been saving it because I'm waiting till it's slightly closer to Christmas so I can have a nice Christmas pot of coffee. So
yeah, no, it's good. It's yeah, I feel very lucky. I've always got nice coffee in the house, and yeah, it's good.
Nice coffee, nice beer. What else do you need?
Well, yeah, exactly.
You really can't ask for anything
It's
more.
all the good stuff.
I know, it does mean we constantly, yeah, we've always got some nice things yeah, kicking about, so it's good.
So to wrap things up, the plan for your future, like, are you guys going to be do you have plans in the future to do, more beer festivals, or to do anything else specific, or is it just kind of just keep chugging along, doing all the good stuff you're doing?
When you asked, do you have plans for the future, my immediate reaction was no.
You're like, oh, immediately no.
Yeah.
No plans.
We're aiming for thriving, not just surviving. That's it.
No,
that's basically what we're going.
We've got a plan, because breweries seem to be closing at quite the rate.
Yes.
We did mention the other day, like, if we can hang on like another 6 months or so, like, we might be the only ones left.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah, basically, if you're small enough, you might just, feel like we're skating by. But
right.
I have no idea.
It's that thing of like, yeah, if you don't laugh, you'll cry, isn't it? But it's funny that you said survivor, not thrive, or thriving, not surviving, because I've got my work laptop that happens to be right next to me. It's got a sticker on it that says "So thriving."
Yeah.
And I just thought that phrase was so funny. I was like, that's going immediately on my laptop. Thriving. And actually, I feel like that's just it's a very fun it's a very fun saying. So it's like, I just use that now. Like, oh, I'm just so thriving. Just don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's I guess just trying to, we did the Little Earth Festival this year, and that's like really little, and I loved that immensely.
It looked amazing. Joe and I were talking about how we wanted to go.
It's really good.
But I think the timing of it, it was, by the time we kind of were like, okay, realistically we could do it, it was almost too late to try to organize it. So we didn't do it, but I remember us looking at it and being like, oh God, this looks amazing, like, want to go.
It was definitely both the most relaxed, friendly, but nerdiest group of people in the field you've ever
amazing
thought about. It was really lovely. It was really, really nice. We were so glad to go, but and hopefully they will do it again this year, because that was great. But it was really, really good. But we, like, apart from that, we would like to do the Rise version of our Rise and Fall series. That's sort of our next big thing to aim for.
We've got a whole bunch of stuff. I guess SP's in the process of doing all of our next lot of labels, which is quite exciting.
We're always about like 3 to 6 months behind our like release schedule, both in terms of like, hey, we've bottled the stuff, we should probably sell this at some point, but also then like, we'll be like, oh, we'll sell this in January, and then like March will come around, like, what were we going to do with that thing?
I've got goals. I'm like, we're going to be all over it this year. Especially, I think that's actually a really nice thing is about having Sophie Potter, is that now I'm like, because obviously we need to have stuff figured out so we can send it. It's basically, there's another person to be like, well, I need to know, otherwise it's not going to happen. So it's quite that, whereas like, I guess before we were doing the labels like between the two of us, and so I think that I think that's a really nice thing, is that we're kind of that I'm like, that's the main goal. Let's just really try and have a schedule.
But
good.
We've got some really exciting beers, like either in package and just sort of having a little age before we release them, or like in barrel ready to go as soon as someone gets around to packaging them. I don't know who that could be. But then we've got so many, like, we did just a few collaboration-y things this year, but we've got so many that I or Helen have agreed to that we haven't got round to yet. I was looking at the calendar. I was like, if we didn't have to, we probably wouldn't need to release any beers under like just our own name in the coming year.
That's really exciting.
Well,
that's like really a really exciting thing, isn't it?
And terrifying. I was like, but we totally should do 1 year where we just don't release any beers under our own name. That would be amazing. That would be really good.
Yeah. I think also we need to stop, like, I guess, making friends.
I know. And like I don't know how we're doing it because we're not personable people, right? Like neither of us.
You say at the start that you're like, we're just curmudgeons. Like, we don't.
Yeah, and we went to like Little Earth Festival and stuff, and like, you know, I hate camp. I'm not a camping person, and like it was kind of just generally, and it was really hot, and I'm quite miserable in the summer, so I was just like stomping around, and we still came away from it with people being like, "We'd love to work with you," and I was like, "How and why?"
Oh yeah, and the boys from Balance Brewery in Manchester. I don't know if you've had anything from there. Everything's delightful.
They're so good.
Yeah, they're so lovely that I could not have been less pleasant to them. I went out of my way to be so horrible to them, and they're still like, "Oh, can we come and do something?" And then
you're like, "Oh, I guess so."
Yeah,
whatever.
I was like, "Oh,
if you have to."
Yeah, I really like you, and that's annoying me. And then I was like, "Oh, you could come and like camp up at our orchard," but then I was like trying to type it angrily so they got the message.
All caps.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess you can come here if you want to, because you are nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not even gonna put a kind regards. I'm just gonna put regards.
Yeah. So, and people just will not take the hint, right?
Yeah.
Will they? Awful.
Never.
Awful. Absolutely awful. So, yeah. No, but it's the same. Like there's so many lovely people that we are gonna have to work with, and we're so cross about it. Like,
because you hate how much that you're actually excited to do it. You're like, oh.
Yeah, I know.
Stop! I want to load this.
It's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, it's really nice, and we did some lovely things this year. Like we did. I went up to Torside, who are one of my favourite breweries up in sort of New Mills area, just outside Manchester, and they're like delightfully lovely people. They're so enthusiastic about everything. So that was an annoyance as well. Like just like, yeah.
I've come on this way. You should at least be rude to me. Come on now. Give me something.
Yeah. Oh, and it was amazing. So their brewery is right next door to the Swizzles factory, the sweet manufacturing place. So it smells great as well.
Did that just double down on your anger? Were you just like, oh, it even smells
so
good.
great.
Yeah. So much joy.
Yeah. Oh, and you're so pleasant people. Oh. And they had nice dogs there, and it's just this is a nightmare job, really.
Horrid.
Like it's
absolutely horrid.
It's just the worst.
Can't even imagine. I feel sick to my stomach thinking about it. Having to cuddle all those dogs. I've got two hands. I got 2 hands. I can cuddle 2 dogs. Outrageous.
And then we have to come and talk to people like you. Like, oh,
we're the worst of them.
Oh my god. We just move our dates around to accommodate you.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. So helpful and nice.
To be fair, I was like, yeah, it works. I was like, I'm working from home today. I can be available. It's cool. Didn't mind.
I keep doing this. I again, this is why I'm like, I'm gonna be so good next year with all of my like level of organization. I said to I can't remember what I was doing, but basically I said to Rachel, like, oh, I think we should meet up on this date, blah blah, and she was like, don't you have the like Rise and Fall launch tasting? And I was like,
oh yes, I guess I do.
Oh, I'm really glad that you pointed that out to me. I was just like, right, what are we doing next week? She was like, what?
What are we doing? What are you doing?
Well, one of my favorite things from this year is like, I think I maybe mildly disagreed with something that Helen had written or something in our little chat or something, and you replied straight away with, oh, are we going to have an argument?
We did.
You're like, oh great, it's going to be spicy today. I like this. Let's go.
I can't remember what we were disagreeing about, but actually it was about Rise and Fall, wasn't it? It was about the way we put the names on the cans, I think. But I was like, this is quite exciting.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're
brace myself.
very disagreeable people, the two of us. It's really awkward. Yeah.
It is funny though, because I do think that James does genuinely think that I might be nice, but I'm like, not fun. I don't know how this has happened.
I think my favorite thing is the fact that we're gonna have an argument. This is exciting.
Well, I was like, it's our first one. This is a milestone, you know.
Have you put IKEA furniture together? Because that's the next one.
Yeah,
that's definitely the next one.
And because I'm very like dyspraxic, I just naturally infuriate people when we have to do stuff like that. So I'm like, yeah, that's one of those like me and my wife can't do furniture. That's not to the point where actually me and Rachel, who I run Brewery with, we built our bed but she's built most of the furniture in my house with me because I was like, it's just safer, I think. If we do it, then
that's fair. That makes total sense. That makes I think we can all go in agreement there. That makes sense. We can all sign that off. If someone's going to go on and order these 3 lovely rise and fall beers from your website, so say they'll go with the non-core range that you've got here. And if they were to get one more beer, like no limits there, what would each of your, just to close it off, which would each of your favorite or the most recommended one for whatever reason be that they should also put in their cart and try?
James just checks to see which is the most expensive one he's currently got available.
In the past, you have said that you were like, I'm putting this out here. In the past, you have said that you were like, I'm rubbish with sales. I just don't really like try to force people to buy things at all. So now's your opportunity. Throw in the most expensive one.
Helen, go on. You were going to say.
Well, I was going to say, I have a real I don't know what it is. Like I love Boise so much. I just think that it's so beautiful. And I like the color, and I mean, also maybe it's because I'm like, I took the picture on the label.
Oh yeah. So that's our wild ale with raspberry. That one. Yes. That's the yeah.
And I don't know, I was quite pleased with that. Also, it's called Boise because for ages it was just called That Raspberry Boy, but boy with an OI. And then I was like, maybe we should call it
To be fair, I think that would have got me. I would have been like, okay, I'm going with
boy. I'm buying that.
But that one's really good. But I think it's hard. It's tricky. Otherwise, it's going to be Brave Faces like that we launched earlier this year, and I just think it's absolutely beautiful. And I think probably it's really good with food for this time of year. It's like a soured saison, and I think it's really lovely. So that's one of the ones that I'm super proud of releasing this year. So
it's probably a little bit more sour than most of the things we release.
I think that's why it's one of my faves, because I love really, really sour stuff. So.
Yeah, so it's a sort of strongish saison aged in a Bordeaux barrel for a year or 18 months. I haven't got it down, something like that. And it just had gone. So I never have a huge amount of control over what goes on once it goes in the barrel, but it definitely soured more than I was expecting. And we dry hopped it just with a little bit of Hallertau Blanc, which is my absolute favourite hop in the world, because it's got that classic sort of European classy style. I'm all about class is my thing. But it's also got a little sort of white winey hints. It's a little more modern. And it just works really nicely with the barrel aged things. So that's really nice. That has turned out well. I'm going to recommend the house I grew up in, because that's the beer I would like to.
The beer, not him.
Well, but you guys have got yeah. So that's the one aged in mixed use sherry and whiskey barrels with a sherry floor, and it's the beer that I'm trying to. Over the years, I would like to perfect. So we're going to keep making that. So it's the sherry floor, just it doesn't add a lot of funk, complexity, no sourness. It just totally dries the beer right out. So it's the driest beer you've ever tasted, and then it's quite nutty. And I think there's something in that. And whether it's just me in the world that likes that or not, we're yet to find out. But that's So in cans, fun.
Exactly.
Perfect. In for 40ml cans.
There you go. You got your recommendations,
There you
people.
go.
So get out.
Amazing.
Any final things you want to plug?
Balance Brewing, they're really good.
They're infuriatingly nice.
Yeah, oh, they're horribly
And their brewery
nice.
smells nice because of what's located around it.
Yeah, they're really nice. Yeah. So
I'm trying to think, is there anything to plug? No, and this is a funny time of year when we're kind of wrapping up now for Christmas. So which is
get your big sharing bottles in for the festive holiday
Well,
period, regardless of what you celebrate or don't celebrate. You could sit at home by yourself and not celebrate anything
and drink 750
big sharing bottle festive treat.
There are some like festive boxes, and our t-shirts now available. And
get your t-shirt.
There's a mix. Yeah, there's a whole mix of different things on the website right now, which is quite nice to have I guess a fun selection of things. So but yeah, I think that's it really. I don't even think we've got any events in the calendar to plug, apart from the tasting that by the time I imagine this comes out will have happened. So that I will remember and will attend, will host.
100% we will attend.
I will be there.
It's almost like if Helen doesn't attend it, they're going to need to get James to have a stern word.
And I'm really good at that.
And he'll go, well, it happens. It's fine.
I'm sure you had a good reason.
It's okay. Things came up.
Amazing.
Well, thank you both for coming back. It's always I really appreciate your time, because it's it's hard to cut it off with you both, because it's such a good conversation. So it's like I don't want to. So
it has been a delight once again. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. No, it's really nice to talk to you guys as well. Thank you. Yeah, it's really nice, and it's really nice to, because Helen and I don't work together. It's actually it's a good little chat for us too. Like it's we don't work in the same place.
Oh, this is lovely.
So thanks so much, guys. We really appreciate it. We really do.
Thank you.
It is. I never don't enjoy speaking to them.
100%. And I've got 3 like delicious beers just open in front of me.
I went into this
I'm
like
loving it.
I can tell I'm starting to get a cold. I have a work Christmas party at the end of the week. I'm gonna have like 1, maybe 2 of the 3, and then obviously, as they pointed out, we had the house I grew up in as well, which was the saison that they were talking about. And
that's exciting.
It's just 2 max, definitely not. And now I've opened up all 3, and I've left the house I grew up in, both literally and figuratively. And I thought I would save that for another day, maybe have it with some cheese, because I feel like I love just having beer and cheese. So but
have you got your Christmas cheese in yet?
My Christmas cheese? No.
Yeah.
But I'm bland.
You just do cheddar, don't you?
Like so I've got don't shame me. I like cheddar, but I like flavored cheddar or like hard cheeses. I don't like stinky cheeses or moldy cheeses or soft cheese. Like I like Boursin. I'm gonna get a 3-pack of Boursin. There's festive Boursins.
There you go. I was eating blue cheese with Duchess at the weekend, and it was.
And were you like, cool, no one else is going to like this but me?
No, because everyone else in the room loved it. It was just you.
I just don't. Yeah, you were like, oh, well, I know.
I did. Do you know what? I did pick up a cheddar and ale truckle from Morrison's the other day. Do you know they do the little waxed ones?
Yeah.
When it's the round and it's waxed, that's called a truckle.
Oh, and, I did not know that.
Yeah,
now I know.
Truckle of cheese. And
don't know why, that just sounds
funny.
Weirdo.
But they got, so at Christmas the supermarkets bring out the lovely little wax cheeses. Yeah, and there's it's
the best cheese time of year.
Yeah, it's cheddar and ale one in Morrison's right now.
Oh, all right, I'm gonna have to hit up Morrison's, because there's one
on it
on the way back from my work. And I have been slowly, because like the plan is for our holiday festivities, so we have to host on Christmas Eve, and I'm planning on having like the late lunch is going to be, or early lunch, I guess, is going to be like charcuterie, meats, cheeses, bread, crackers. And then those will make their appearance again at the end of the night when everyone's had quite a few drinks and we're like, we just need food. So I've been collecting all of the good cheeses. So
Yeah,
I do have, but they are, to be fair, it is mostly like I said, it's mostly like cheddar or similar like hard cheeses with various fruits and flavors, as opposed to, I did get a camembert because I know my in-laws like camembert. Someone at work the other day was like, how do I make this? Because we had a Christmas party in the office.
Did they have a baked camembert?
And they were like, how do I do, we had a
stick it in the oven.
So we don't have an oven, but we have an air fryer.
Okay, yeah.
And they were like, how do I do this? And I was like, you're asking the wrong person. I eat like cheddar. Like, I eat hard cheeses. Like, this is
just
I'm not
cut the top of it, whack it in there.
Yeah. But yeah.
Till it's melty. Dip on
this is all relevant to wilderness because of the fact that I feel like what they have really well. Goes so well with cheese. And now that's where my brain is at. It's like, I've been looking across their website because I'm planning my next shop, which has to wait until after Christmas. And I'm planning my next shop. And I'm like, all these things will go with cheese. I love it.
I was going to say that the bitter, I reckon, would go really well.
Really
with
well.
A vintage cheddar with like the one that's got like the salty crystals in it. Nice.
Or even maybe like a dab of like balsamic glaze on that.
Yes. Yeah. Good stuff. Well, anyway, this has been a long one because we love talking to James. And
genuinely, it was like they both.
I don't think we got to a beer until we were halfway, like half an hour in. So.
Because it was really interesting. So it starts off like really interesting. Like, oh, we should actually probably crack the beer.
Yeah.
And then they just have you laughing. And then it's by the time you're laughing, it's too late. It's too late. So two self-proclaimed unlikable people.
Curmudgeons.
The curmudgeons.
So go and buy all their beer and go get yourself a beautiful t-shirt. Tori, if people want to talk to you and recommend cheddars to you,
no, specifically, like, don't come at me with stinky cheeses, moldy cheeses. That's Joe's domain. Yeah. Give her all that. Not for me. If you want to give me the good like hard cheddar or like hard cheeses, I'll even take a nice Italian hard cheese like a Parmigiano Reggiano or something like that. Go with any of those. If you want to recommend me all the flavors you have or the ones that pair the best, the supermarkets where I can get the best selection of the holiday festive cheeses, you can do that on Instagram at adventures_in_hoptimism or on Gmail at adventuresinhoptimism@gmail.com, or you can tell both Joe and I, where I'll probably see it slightly quicker than Joe will on our email, which is a womensbrewpodcast@gmail.com, or you could tell us both on the Instagram, which is a women's brew. Joe, if people want to specifically tell you about those stinky cheeses and what will pair really well with the wilderness beers, where can they speak to you?
I love good cheese. Come find me at my beer school. Where I've got a blog post about beer and cheese if you're interested. Come find me at Love Beer Learning, which is on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Pinterest. I'm mostly on Instagram and TikTok, to be fair. I have a website where said blog is if you want to look up some beer and cheese pairings for your Christmas table. That is lovebeerlearning.co.uk. And you can email me, lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. If you can't find that blog post and you just want me to send you the link, I can do that for you. Right, we're also on YouTube, don't forget. So let's go finish these beautiful beers.
I'm going to go finish these beautiful, beautiful beers.
Cheers.